Toxic positivity at work. When good vibes only becomes harmful. Welcome to today's deep dive. In a world where optimism is often marketed as a productivity tool, we're exploring a topic that's rarely talked about openly: toxic positivity at work. We've all seen it. Maybe you've even lived it. A colleague shares that they're burned out and overwhelmed, and the response is, "Just be positive, you're lucky to even have a job." Or worse, "We don't do negativity here." But what happens when a workplace forces a constant state of positivity, even when reality is heavy, unjust, or painful? What happens when smiles are required, regardless of what's truly going on? That's what we're unpacking today. What is toxic positivity, and why is it dangerous? Let's begin with a simple truth. Positivity itself is not toxic. In fact, healthy optimism can inspire resilience, connection, and hope, even in difficult times. But like any good thing, positivity becomes dangerous when it is forced, inappropriate, or used to silence valid emotions. Toxic positivity is the belief that no matter how painful, stressful, or unjust a situation is, people should maintain a positive mindset and not express negative emotions. It's the workplace version of smile through the pain. It sounds like, look on the bright side. At least you still have a job. No complaining, we're all in this together. Let's focus on solutions, not problems. You're bringing down the energy. Stay positive. These phrases might sound harmless, but when they're used to dismiss genuine concerns, they create an emotionally unsafe environment, one where honesty is punished and emotional performance is rewarded. This isn't just annoying. It's psychologically damaging. It trains employees to suppress real emotions, grief, burnout, anxiety, exhaustion, just to fit the company's mood board. It tells them, your real experience doesn't belong here. And over time, this creates a workplace culture where no one feels safe to speak up, express themselves authentically, or ask for help. Toxic positivity doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers. It hides behind motivational quotes in the hallway. It smiles through mental health breakdowns in performance reviews. It's embedded in those fun, team-building sessions where no one dares admit they're drowning in work. Here are a few common ways toxic positivity shows up at work. 1. Dismissal of real concerns. When an employee raises a legitimate issue, like burnout, inequality, or poor leadership, and is met with, "Let's not focus on the negative," that's toxic positivity in action. The goal isn't support. It's emotional control. It sends the message, your feelings make us uncomfortable, so we'd rather ignore them. 2. Micromanaged emotional tone. Some organizations subtly, or openly, require employees to appear upbeat at all times. Phrases like, "Keep smiling," "We don't tolerate negative energy," "This is a happy culture." These expectations ignore the complexity of human emotion. No one is truly happy all the time, and pretending to be is exhausting. It turns emotional labor into a performance requirement, one that disproportionately affects women, people of color, and employees in customer-facing roles. 3. Punishment for vulnerability. If employees who express fatigue, anxiety, or sadness are labeled as not a team player, or not aligned with company values, you're not seeing positivity, you're seeing emotional gaslighting. Over time, people stop speaking up. They shrink themselves to stay safe. And the culture becomes emotionally numb. 4. Overuse of motivational language without action. Toxic positivity often replaces meaningful support with superficial slogans. "We're a family," but there's no mental health leave, "We care." But ignore feedback surveys, "Be grateful for poor working conditions." These slogans ring hollow because they lack structural backing. It's not positivity, it's PR. 5. Masking systemic problems. Perhaps the most dangerous part of toxic positivity is how it becomes a smokescreen for deeper issues. When employees are told to stay positive, it can distract from workplace discrimination, inequitable pay, toxic management, overwork, and burnout. It's easier to sell positivity than to fix systems. But positivity doesn't heal what it hides. The psychology behind toxic positivity. Why do companies promote it? To understand why toxic positivity thrives at work, we need to look beneath the surface. This isn't just about annoying coworkers with live, laugh, love mugs. It's about control, culture, and fear, often wrapped in the language of optimism. Let's unpack the psychological forces that fuel toxic positivity in professional spaces. 1. Fear of disruption. Most companies are obsessed with control and predictability. Real emotions, sadness, anger, frustration, are messy. They're unpredictable. And when employees express them, they introduce a level of discomfort that many managers are not equipped to handle. So instead of creating a culture that can hold complexity, companies default to one that rewards emotional conformity. They say, "We want honesty," but they mean, "We want honesty that's easy to hear." Toxic positivity becomes a coping mechanism for leaders who don't know how to sit with emotional discomfort. 2. Productivity culture and capitalism. Let's be real. Toxic positivity is also profitable. In many work environments, productivity is king. Emotions like grief, fear, or disillusionment are seen as threats to output, not as natural parts of the human experience. The result? A culture where being tired is weakness. Needing help is failure. Only positive energy is rewarded. This mindset is deeply rooted in capitalist values, where people are seen as resources, not whole beings. And in this framework, positivity isn't for the person. It's for the bottom line. 3. Emotional illiteracy in leadership. Not every toxic culture is intentional. Many managers simply don't know how to deal with emotions, because they were never trained. Emotional intelligence is often dismissed as soft skills, even though it's critical for psychological safety. So when an employee expresses stress, overwhelm, or sadness, the leader responds the only way they know how. Let's just stay positive. Don't bring your personal problems to work. We all have bad days, power through. It's not evil. It's unskilled. But the damage is still real. 4. Branding and company image. We live in an era where culture branding is everything. Companies compete not just for clients, but for employer reputation. So they craft images of themselves as positive, inclusive, values-driven, even when the day-to-day experience doesn't match. Toxic positivity becomes a marketing tool. Leaders fear that visible struggle will damage the brand, so they pressure employees to smile, say nice things, and post filtered testimonials online. But beneath the Instagrammable culture is often burnout, silence, and suppression. 5. The self-help industrial complex. Let's not forget the role of pop psychology in all this. The last decade has seen a flood of social media content pushing positive affirmations, good vibes only, and self-help messages, often without nuance or context. While some of this content is helpful, it's often misapplied in workplaces where individual mindset is prioritized over systemic change. Instead of fixing toxic structures, companies tell employees to meditate more, be more grateful, stay positive, manifest their promotion. This bypasses accountability. It tells people the problem is in their attitude, not the environment. 6. Avoidance of conflict. Let's be honest, most people hate conflict. In many work cultures, speaking up, especially with criticism, is seen as confrontational. Toxic positivity provides a socially acceptable way to avoid hard conversations. Rather than addressing racism, unfair workloads, or leadership failure, people are encouraged to stay optimistic. Toxic positivity is not always malicious, but it's always avoidant. And when organizations avoid truth, they silence progress. The impact on employees. What toxic positivity really does to people. It's easy to dismiss toxic positivity as just annoying or superficial. But in reality, it creates psychological damage. It invalidates human emotion, encourages emotional suppression, and fuels a culture where people are rewarded for being silent. Let's go deeper into how this shows up for real employees. 1. Emotional suppression and burnout. When workplaces only reward positive energy, employees learn very quickly to hide everything else. They smile through grief. They say, "It's all good," when it's not. They force gratitude when they're drowning. This emotional suppression isn't harmless. Over time, it leads to Burnout, anxiety, resentment, loss of identity. The pressure to perform positivity is exhausting, especially for those navigating personal or systemic hardship. 2. Loss of psychological safety. Toxic positivity kills psychological safety. The belief that you can speak up, make mistakes, or be yourself without punishment. When people are punished or ignored for expressing discomfort, they learn, this is not a safe space to be honest, so they start withdrawing. They avoid asking for help. They hide mistakes. They disengage from real feedback loops, because honesty is not welcome here. Over time, this creates a culture of silence where problems are hidden until they explode. 3. Shame and isolation. Imagine being depressed and hearing, cheer up, it could be worse. Just be grateful you have a job. Everything happens for a reason. These comments may sound supportive, but they can land as deeply shaming. Instead of validating someone's pain, they imply, you're wrong to feel this way. You're not trying hard enough. You're being negative. This can lead to internalized guilt, where people feel broken for having normal emotional responses. They begin to doubt themselves. They pull away from others. And they suffer alone, in silence. 4. Loss of trust in leadership. Employees are incredibly perceptive. They know when leadership isn't telling the full truth. If leadership always paints things in a positive light, even during layoffs, high stress, or scandals, employees start to feel manipulated. They lose trust. They begin to think, what else are they hiding? Do they care more about image than people? Are we allowed to tell the truth here? Once trust is broken, it's hard to rebuild. Toxic positivity may feel like good PR, but it comes at the cost of credibility and loyalty. 5. Exclusion of marginalized voices. Toxic positivity often ignores systemic injustice. When Black employees speak about racism, when disabled workers request accommodations, when women challenge microaggressions, toxic positivity can be weaponized to silence them. Let's not focus on the negative. We're all one team here. Don't make things about race, gender. Let's keep things positive and forward-thinking. These responses dismiss lived experience and protect the status quo. In this way, toxic positivity becomes a barrier to inclusion. It tells marginalized employees that their truth is too uncomfortable for the culture. 6. Increased turnover and quiet quitting. Toxic positivity often leads to disengagement, high attrition, quiet quitting, where people do the bare minimum to survive. Why? Because when people feel unheard, unvalued, or emotionally suffocated, they stop caring. They stop investing energy in a system that doesn't hold space for their reality. And once that happens, no amount of pizza Fridays or motivational posters can fix it. 7. Gaslighting by culture. Perhaps the most sinister effect of toxic positivity is that it gaslights employees. When someone says, I'm struggling, and the company replies with, we're all in this together, stay positive, it sends a message that their reality isn't valid. Over time, people stop trusting their own feelings. They wonder if they're too sensitive or too negative. They begin to question their own boundaries. This isn't support. This is manipulation disguised as care.